Good day, everyone, and welcome back to SOC 003, Philippine Politics and Governance. Today in our SOC 003, we will be having our discussion for Module 20 and Module 21. It's all about public policy making in the Philippines. Let's start by defining what is policy. Policy is a decision-making framework or course of action to achieve a desired effect or change. It is also a set of ideas or plans that is used as a basis for making decisions, especially in politics, economics, or business. Policy is a deliberate system of guidelines to guide decisions and achieve rational outcomes. A policy is a statement of intent and is implemented as a procedure or protocol. Policies are generally adopted by a governance body within an organization. Now let's go to public policy system. It refers to the courses of action, regulatory measures, laws, and funding priorities concerning a given topic promulgated by a governmental entity or its representatives. Broadly, we might say that a public policy is simply what government, that includes any public official who influences or determines public policy, including school officials, city council members, or county representatives or supervisors and others, does or does not do about a problem that comes before them for consideration and public action. Now let's have the three parts to public policy making. Public policy making is a complex process that involves many participants with different roles, interests, and resources. The study of public policy is the study of who gets what, why, and what difference it makes. First, we have problem. It refers to the issue or issues that need to be addressed. A problem is a situation that produces a human need, deprivation, or dissatisfaction for which relief is sought, such as pollution, inflation, crime, poverty, and others. However, only those needs and wants that are articulated by people demanding action become problems eligible for public policy solutions. Next, we have player. It involves individual or group that is influential in forming a plan to address the problem in question. It involves individuals at some level of government or decision-making institution, including but not limited to international organizations, non-governmental agencies, or professional associations who have responsibility for making recommendations to others. And last, we have policy. Policy is the finalized course of action decided upon by the government when open to interpretation by NGO player and private sector, including church and cultural institutions. It is a specific decision or set of decisions designed to carry out such a course of action. We have three types of public policies, namely regulatory policy, distributive policy, and redistributive policy. First, let's go to regulatory policy. It is designed to limit the actions of persons or groups so as to protect the general public or a substantial portion of public. It is a policy that imposes limits on the behavior of some identifiable groups or individuals. It carries punitive sanctions, for example, regulation of criminal activity, business activity, access to public goods, gun control, consumer protection, and others. Next is distributive policy. It is the most common form of government policy. It uses tax revenues to provide benefits to individuals or groups by means of grants or subsidies. It is a policy that benefits some people but at not discernible cost to others. It allocates government benefits to individuals and groups. It uses public funds, little direct competition or challenge from other groups. For example, agricultural subsidies, government-sponsored research, and other river improvement projects. Lastly, we have redistributive policy. It takes taxes from certain groups and give them to another group. It is a policy that makes a deliberate reallocation of resources among identifiable social groups. There are clearly identifiable winners and losers. Power is redivided between haves and have-nots. For example, welfare, housing subsidies, progressive income tax, social security, and others. Now let's talk about the stages of policy process. There are 5 stages with regards to policy process. The first one is agenda setting or identification of issues or problems. In this first stage, a problem or challenge that impacts the public is initially identified. Solutions are put forward by interested parties both inside and outside of the government. Agenda setting typically goes through these stages. First is systematic agenda. It involves all issues public officials feel are worth addressing. Next is institutional agenda. These are distilled from the systematic agenda list. These issues are chosen as the ones policymakers should analyze and consider acting on. Third is discretionary agenda. This list comes directly from lawmakers, not from the systematic and institutional agendas. And last is decision agenda, the final list of issues that policymakers will consider for action. Next step is policy formation. This step involves the development of policy options within the government. This occurs after officials narrow the range of possible policy choices by excluding infeasible options. In this step, different interested parties attempt to have their favorite policy solution rank high among the remaining options. This step often involves a period of intense debate. Next is decision making. In this step, government leaders decide on a particular course of action. Ideally, it is the course that will best address the problem for the most members of the public. Next is policy implementation. In this step of policy-making process, governments put the chosen public policy option into effect. Officials use the tools of public administration that impact the distribution of government goods and services or make changes in how the government taxes the public. The change should reflect the sentiments and values of the affected parties. Lastly, we have policy evaluation. Interested parties both within and without the government monitor the impact of the policy and determine if it is achieving the intended goal. This can lead to further changes in public policy done in light of the impact of the original policy. In reality, the policy-making process is not typically so linear. However, these 5 steps provide a framework to better understand public policy formation and help students identify the strengths and weaknesses of the system. Now let us know the nature of public policy. Public policy is said to be a combination of laws, regulations, actions, policies, and a lot of other factors concerning a given topic. The following points will make the nature of public policy more clear in your minds. Public policies are goal-oriented. Public policy is the outcome of the government's collective actions. Public policy is what the government actually decides or chooses to do. Public policy is positive in the sense that it depicts the concern of the government and involves its actions to a particular problem on which the policy is made. Such public policies of a nation are shaped over time by education, advocacy groups, and conflicting interests of special interest groups. Now, what is the scope of public policy? It covers a broad area of government laws, regulations, court decisions, and local ordinances. Today, government affects all aspects of our lives. Everyone has a stake in the public policies enacted by federal, state, and local governments. Now, who are the policymakers? The legislative branch is authorized to make laws, alter and repeal them through the power vested in the Philippine Congress. This institution is divided into the Senate and the House of Representatives. Now let us know what is the difference between a law and public policy. Policy also means what a government does not intend to do. It also involves the principles that are needed for achieving the goal. Policies are only documents and not law, but these policies can lead to new laws, while a law or laws are set standards, principles, and procedures that must be followed in society. The main difference between law and policy is that law is a final decision or a document made by the government after discussing the policy for the welfare of society. The policy is an outline of governmental plans.